Next up on the career simulation for my boot camp, assisting some students with a walkthrough, we're going to knock out step 8. Use PowerShell on the target new hire computer to check what the latest program installed on the computer was. So on the right side here, I've got my, whoops, a little pop-up distracted me. I've got my John HRPC, which is the new hire's computer. I need to open up PowerShell. I'm probably going to want to be logged in as administrator just for ease of access here. So I'll switch the user. Once I get that switched, I'll open up PowerShell. That's one of the policies we set up earlier in step 6. I created a run book for the class, one of the homework assignments. I've got step 8 already set up here. So I'm going to refer to my own notes to enable me to get this done a little bit quicker. I don't know if I need to run this as administrator, but since I am in an administrative account, I'm not going to worry too much about elevating privileges. Let's see if I can do it with this. Okay. For some reason they gave us 2 different administrative logins, and they weren't very clear on which does what, but that one worked anyhow. So we've got PowerShell open. We need to run a couple of different PowerShell commands, and each output of a command is going to get piped into the next set of commands. So I'm going to get Windows products, and then after that I'm sorting objects via install date, as we need to check the latest installed program. And then I'm selecting the last item in that sorted list, which is going to be the most recent item installed. And then at the very end, this output gets piped into a list formatting command that provides me with the name and the install date. So each of these commands, separated by pipes, we can perform separately. So I'm just going to kind of walk through each one and interpret it the best I can. Get WMI object class Win32 product. I'm going to double check that I got this correct. Get WMI object, and then passing in the request to filter down by class, which is Win32 product. I'll press enter, see what I get. Okay, there we go. So this is every Windows product. Let's just I'm going to ask Gemini what this exactly means, but because I'm not seeing specifically Windows products, but maybe it's items saved under Win32 class. So let's ask our handy dandy Gemini. Am I seeing AWS products in this list as well? Okay, PowerShell retrieves a list of all products installed using the Windows installer. So anything that was installed using the Windows installer, including AWS products. Okay, not all software appears here. Some use different installation methods rather than Win32. For a potentially more comprehensive list, you cannot use PowerShell, and you can hop into the registry, it looks like, and look at all items here. Probably just go into the control panel and see the same items. I'm assuming that's where control panel gets its info. Just an assumption. Nonetheless, so we found that these are all the products installed through Win32, Windows installer. Next, we want to Let's go ahead and press up on this and then pipe that above output into the next command sort object. So now we're going to sort all of these above items with their install date, which interestingly doesn't seem to reflect in the initial list here, but it must be in the metadata somewhere within each install. So let's check that and see how it looks. We've got at the top here EC2 config service with Amazon, which is elastic computer or virtual machines that Amazon allows one to set up at the business to scale up and down as needed. So I think that's the newest one from what I remember, the oldest being down here, Microsoft Health Update Tools. So now we've sorted the list, but we want to select the last object, last one. So let's see if it pulls the top or the bottom. I thought it was pulling from the bottom. Last one. Okay. Yeah, I think I missed something. Yeah. That's what we missed. So I missed because my screen wasn't big enough and it wasn't showing me the full argument here. Install date. We need to specify the property install date. And then that will reflect what I was expecting to see. Interesting. Get WMI product, install date. I'm going to remove this command and I'm going to work with this one to see the install dates. C++ installed 2022, and then down at the bottom, AWS command line interface installed 2022. Sort property. Okay, so let's add another command to first sort the first output sort object property install date. All right, so let's double check that. Go for it. Okay, so we're seeing install date 2025, February 13. So year, month, day, oldest. Just looking at my old one here, it's different. So, but EC2 config service installed 22 May 21st of 2022, and the most recent was Microsoft Update Health Tools 2025 yesterday, effectively. So let's go ahead and complete the full command here. Get WMI object, get all installed products through Windows 32, sort those objects by install date. We're going to then expect to see Microsoft Update Health Tools when we narrow this down with select object last one. It's interesting it shows the most recent on the bottom. Sometimes the logic of Microsoft astounds. I would always expect to see the most recent on the top and then descending from there towards the oldest on the bottom. Nonetheless, we've got get the products, pipe the output of the products, to sort them by install date, and then select the very last one, and then format that very last item with just name and install date. Press enter, and there we go. So this here would be what we would share in our runbook for the step 8 request using the PowerShell to check what the latest program installed on the computer was. I'm going to end the video and create a new one for step 9 because I fumbled through this one a little bit. The reason being, it wants us to write a script that gives you a list of all running services and put that output in a file named running-services.txt. The issue I ran into was, am I executing this script from the domain controller computer on the remote computer? Am I executing this on the remote computer and saving the file on the remote computer? That means in the future, if I was actually doing this at work, I'd have to grab John's PC and be like, hey, let me do some work on it and run a script and then save the file and email it to myself. That was the simple way to do it, because if you run the script from the domain controller onto the remote targeted computer, you have to force remote scripting on the target computer, set up or change policies. You can either invoke the command, and then you have to invoke the command on the domain controller, and then you have to convert it to some sort of raw scripting format so that the local computer can understand it, or you could put everything into the shared folder. It was a whole mess of different options, and the easiest way does not conform to best practices, and it gets exponentially more complex if you want to conform to best practices in terms of making sure the script is dynamic and that you can execute it from your administrative computer and not have to go borrow the poor new hire's computer to do it. So I think I'm going to keep it simple and not adhere to best practices, but I will talk about that as I go through. I'm not an expert on best practices, but I know enough to maybe spot red flags here and there. So I'll point those out as I do it. Sorry for the preamble, the long rant about step 9, as we are only working on step 8. Hopefully you found that helpful. For those in my class, you do want to screenshot this and share it in your run book, similar to this example here, and then recording the output here. So that's that. Happy learning. If I said anything wrong, please leave a comment. Deuce.